Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tronage, and today we're going to be talking about this taped up yellow box. Yes, isn't that exciting? No, what's exciting is what's inside it. Spoiler alert, it's an HGLRC Arrow 3. Stick around. Alright guys, I am super excited to have this taped up yellow box in my hand. Why? Because it contains an HGLRC Arrow 3. And I am so excited because this is like the latest and greatest from them for their 3-inch quads. This is essentially, let's call it the big brother or the upgrade to the XJB, because the XJB was it's the HGLRC XJB 145. 145 stood for millimeters. It was 145 millimeters. This is 152. So it's a little itty bitty bit bigger. So I'm going to call it an upgrade, and I'm going to call it the big brother, and I'm probably going to call it a whole bunch of other things because this is supposed to be really good. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of an unboxing action, and as I do my unboxings, I do them live with you for the first time, so you get my genuine reactions. All right, so that's why it's still in a yellow shipping box, because I don't know if it's in here with retail packaging. I don't know if it's inside here naked, and I didn't want to ruin the surprise, so we're gonna go through and do that together. But before we do that, hit that subscribe button. While you're at it, hit that bell icon. It makes finding my videos a whole lot easier. It makes keeping in the know a lot easier. It helps support the channel, and it just makes me really happy. So just do it already. Come on. All right, cool. Now, what we're going to do, we're going to bring you all in close. We'll unbox this. If it's got retail packaging, we'll unbox that too. I'm crazy like that. Then we'll go over, we'll look at the specs, and we'll talk about it because I am super excited to get this cracked open. So get over here. And here we go. We have our yellow taped up box with really much nothing written on it. I'm guessing this section here looks to be the part that is where we're going to open from. So let's dig in. I'm super excited. Let's see what we got. So we do some cuttage. Probably time to change my blade because it seems very dull, if you will, but it is what it is for this unboxing. So we are getting somewhere, it looks like. Hope I don't cut myself here. Okay. We got somewhere. All right. Oh, we got some goodness. And it looks like it is in retail packaging, which is pretty darn sweet. Oh, dang it. It's like everything's sticking to everything. Okay. There we go. All right. So we have in our hand the quad. Now, if you saw in the shipping box, there were also these things. What are these things? These are motors. Why do I have spare motors? In case someone breaks? Nope. Because these are the motors you need for 6S. The motors that are going to be attached on here inside this box are for 4S. So essentially, I have both the 4S and the 6S version. So what we're going to do, the plan is once we get this unboxed and we play with it, we're going to fly it around, we're going to use it as a 4S quad. We're going to compare it to the XJB. We're going to compare it to other things out there. And then once we have a good feel on it for 4S, we're going to swap out those motors to these guys, which are the 6S motors, so we can run it with a 6S pack. What's the difference? It's all about the KV. You take a peek here. So as you can see here, these are the 1408s at 2400 kV. This is what you're going to run for a 6S. And at 4S, you're going to be running the same motor, but at 3600 kV. So it's really just how you're going to run it. So motors are motors. We'll look at those a little bit later. This, my friends, is what I'm super excited to take a look at. It's got a very similar packaging to the XJB. It has like glossy kind of stuff on the outside. It's got some information here if you want to check that out. And then on this side, it has the signature tag that tells you all the info about it. And you see here, it says the 3600 kV, so that we know that that's what is in here. Whew, I'm getting chills opening this guy. Here we go. We're cutting in. We're opening it up. Cutting the plastic. This is the best part. Well, actually, no, the best part's when you actually get it open and you're playing with it. But I'm so happy to have this. All right. Okay. It's stiff to open. Okay. Come on. Come on. Here we go. Okay. The top's ready. Here it comes. Ah, that new car smell. Want to smell? Ah, that is pretty cool. I ain't gonna lie. That is pretty cool. All right, let's dig this thing out of here. I think the best plan of attack here is just take the whole foam out. Oh, wow. Okay. And then just kind of pop it. Yeah. Whoa, there's some... That's pretty cool. There's some beef to that. I ain't gonna lie. It's got some heaviness to it. Oh, that's slick. Look at that. Right off the bat, it's got a low ESR capacitor right there ready to go. Pre-installed. Crazy. Crazy, crazy. All right, this has definitely got some heft to it compared to the XJB. All right, so first things first, I'm going to put my video antenna on just because I don't want to accidentally forget later on, and there's an issue with that. So there we go. We have our antenna installed. This is the XM Plus, the Frsky version, so it does have. I don't have to do anything. The goal is just take it out of the box and start to play with it. The problem is I'm going to want to take it apart and look inside of it. So, but this is pretty cool. These motors. Oh, those are nice. They're nice and coggy, but not too coggy. I don't know if that makes any sense, but... All right, so we have the quad. We take it out of the box. Now, we still have a bunch of goodies in here, so let's go through what else is in the package. So we get some props here. These are the Gemfan 3052s, if I am not mistaken. We also get a nice another ring of foam. We get the caps for the motors. Basically, we get additional mounting screws, I guess, in case we lose some. And we have the bolts that hold on the props. We have another package here, and then that's the empty box. And inside here, we have a battery strap, which is a nice one. It actually has a buckle on it, so we can use that. Pretty cool. And then inside here, we have, you know, the quality assurance tag. We have some stickers. We have the little instruction for the Frsky receiver. And then we have the information about the Arrow 3, which is really good. Nothing on the back. So it shows you how everything all hooks up. It shows you the whole shebang, and it tells you the whole story about it. So we will go through that later. So let's clean up a little bit. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, oh, they give you an extra pair of props. I guess in case you break some, you have a couple spares ready to go, which is pretty cool. I also like this color. It's kind of like a minty, sea foamy green. Now, I'm not going to worry about which way the propellers are going because I don't know which way this is set up. I don't know if this is set up for props out or props in. I'm just going to throw 4 props on here because I want to get a nice weight on it, because I want to go through, you know, it's one thing to have the spec sheets with all the information on it, but just because that's what they write on a spec sheet doesn't mean that's what it really is. So I want to just mock it up as if we're ready to go flying. Dry weight though, no lipo. And let's see what we get for weights, and then we'll take some measurements. We'll look at the carbon. But I just want to kind of get a feel for how it looks and what it looks like, you know? And there we go. How wonderful is that? All right, so let's get some weights for you. Here's my scale. We'll power that on. And let's see where we are at. We are at 178. And then if I want to throw a battery on there, these are the ones that I was using for my XJB. They're 850 milliamp hour 4S packs from Tattoo. Throw that on there. We are at 280 all in. One thing that I'm finding intriguing, I just noticed, is that this has an XT60 connector while my batteries have XT30 connectors. So obviously this is designed to have a little bit bigger, beefier of a battery, and I would not expect any less from the next generation. So it does mean, I ain't gonna lie, I kind of was waiting to receive this before I decided what batteries to pick for it, because I wanted to see about how big it was, I wanted to see what kind of connector it has, and I wanted to have it in my hand. So I think I am going to pick up some other batteries, and also remember, the elephant in the room is the 6S motors that I'll be putting on here later, so I do want to get a 6S battery pack for this as well. Now let's look at, just take some measurements on the carbon, because it's one of the things I like to know kind of about the carbon. So I got my calipers here. Let's look at the arms first. How thick are our arms? We're at a little bit over 4 millimeters, so we'll call that 4 millimeter thick. Let's just double check a different arm, a different spot. Yeah, we're at 4 millimeters thick. So we are 4 millimeter arm thickness. Let's check top plate. Top plate is at 2 millimeters thick. Our bottom sandwich plates, we have one is 2 millimeter. And then one that's 2 millimeter as well. So we're basically, it's a 2 millimeter, then the 4 millimeter arm, then another 2 millimeter plate, and then a 2 millimeter plate at the top. What's also intriguing is how they have this extra, I'm not sure if it's double layered, but it's like another piece that maybe strengthen the top here, where the camera assembly kind of clicks in and stuff to hold it. So it's a little bit more robust because it's like double layer here. So let's take a little measurement off of that. Yeah, it's 4, no, hold on. Yeah, it's 4 millimeter thick there. So I'd have to take it apart to see, but I think it may be just 2 layers of 2 millimeter there. Total height, standoff style wise, 25 mil. So it uses standard 25 millimeter standoffs, which are the same standoffs that the XJB used. And total height that you would have to play with if you wanted to play with the internals, you do have the full 25 millimeters, because if I'm looking at it correctly, yes, okay. So the one thing that you need to look at is you see how here, this is the bottom plate where the standoffs are attached to, and that's where you begin building your stack, and your motor arms are attached underneath. And then you have your sandwich plate that holds them all secure underneath that. So some builds have this part on the inside, which reduces the amount of height you have to work with. Here you don't. However, as you can see, it is already a pretty tight build, because by the time we have our 4-in-1 ESC, we have our flight controller, we have our VTX, and we have our receiver for our transmitter, there's really no more room in this stack. So if you wanted to throw anything on here, like say a RunCam split mini or something, you'd have to become creative or reframe it some way, because there's really no room to put that on here. But I have to say, this is looking really, really, really cool. I mean, I'm really happy as far as the build quality goes. All the solder joints on the ESC are all nice and shiny. Everything is nice and neat. Everything's kind of tucked away the way it should be. And it looks like, I mean, seriously, I could just put a battery on this and start flying it. So I'm really happy with the way it's been, presented and the way I received it. It's really, really cool. Now, for comparison, let's compare this to the other stuff that we have going on here. So we'll put this in the middle, and next to it here, I'm going to put a standard XJB. Now, this is the XJB. Now, it is a little bit modified in that I have my SMA connector modification on here with a TBS antenna. I do have the Mobius mini on here with my little bracket and everything. But you still kind of get the idea of the shape and the size and everything. And you can see if I put them really side by side, you can see these motors are a little bit bigger than those motors. And bigger meaning wider. So it has a little bit wider wheelbase. And if we put them bottom to bottom, the size is comparable, but it is slightly smaller compared to the standard XJB. And one thing I'm also noticing here, which is pretty nifty, put this to the side for a moment. Look at this frame configuration. You have your rear arms coming out wide, and you have these are kind of like kicking in a little bit. See how there's like a little bit of a bend here? So your front arms are kind of kicked in a little bit. So it's sort of like a stretched X, but again, it's doing a little bit with the frame to keep your back props out of the wash of your front props, because as you're flying through the air, you're going to be going this way, and you want to make these props not get into these props wash, which is basically the disturbed air. So that's a pretty nice touch that they have these front props, these front legs, a little bit different than the rear, so that they kind of compensate for that. That's a nice little touch. And then on the other side, for comparison, I'm going to show you my reframed Acro Brat, or the XJ Brat, as I like to call it. If you haven't seen the video of me building this, the link will be up in the corner here somewhere, will appear, and you can see me basically take the guts of an XJB and put them into the frame of an Acro Brat, and it creates the XJ Brat. What's nice about this is I do have room for the RunCam Split Mini in the front there, as you see. But obviously that's going to add extra weight and extra bulk. So here is your lineup: XJB, Arrow 3, and a reframed XJB into the Acro Brat. All roughly about the same size. However, this is the new kid on the block, and that's the one that I am super, super excited to try out. All right, we're a little bit zoomed in here now, so we can take a little bit of a closer look. And what we're going to do, we're going to kind of take it apart, you know, just because we want to see what's going on inside. So I'm going to take off the antenna, so that's out of the way. Got my little screwdriver here, and we're just going to open up our top plate here. And we'll go through each part as it happens. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, that is a double layered plate, as you can see there. Okay, so we pop off our top plate. Okay, we got some goodies in there. So the first thing we have is our XM Plus receiver, just an XM Plus receiver, nothing real fancy or wonderful to be seen there. We flip it over, we see the antennas coming off out of it and going to the little antennas here and here. So that is pretty cool, I guess, if you're into that sort of thing. And I'm going to use my skewer here to hold that out of the way. But now I need another skewer. All right, so with our XM Plus out of the way, we now have our video transmitter. This is the HGLRC XJB TX20V2 mini transmitter. It does your pit mode 25, 100, 200, or 300 milliwatt switchable. It does all the channels. It does its whole shebang. You know, this is basically does everything you need it to do. It has the display here, though you probably will never use that. And it does have the button on the side, which is located right there, so that you can change your channels manually. However, I recommend that you do it through Betaflight with the on-screen display, because it is a lot easier to set everything up. And then you can see here's our wire for our antenna. It comes down, it goes into the 3D printed part here that it has the SMA connector sitting here, and it is an IPEX or UFL connector. All right, so now while we're on the topic of video transmitter, let's talk this Caddx camera. So let's pull that out. Comes just out like that. And I'm just going to disconnect the wire from it so I can set it to the side. So as you can see, it is the Caddx camera, and if we look over here, you can see it is the Ratel model. It also has inputs for the regular standard camera stuff, and then it also has, if you want to do the on-screen display stuff, it does have the little port for the joystick there. I mean, looking at the specs of this camera, it is pretty darn good. I mean, we'll see when we actually look through it and fly with it. However, just as the highlights, it is obviously color red, so that looks pretty cool and like candy apple-y looking. It does have a 1.66 millimeter lens. It has a 1200 TVL horizontal resolution. It claims to have a 180 degree field of view, so we'll see. It does have NTSC and PAL capability, and it can do 16:9 or 4.3. But basically, it just sounds like it's a really good camera, and it pretty much can take any power you throw at it. From 5 volts to 40 volts it'll run, and, you know, overall, I'm pretty psyched to try this camera out, so I'm happy that it's on this build. Alright, and here's a little bit of a close-up of that VTX, because I realized it was probably pretty small and you couldn't really see what you were looking at before. So there you go, a little look at what it looks like up close. And again, the little button if you want to manually change your settings is located right there on the side. Alright, now let's take this off and see what we got next. So we take that ever so carefully off and move it to the side. And now we can see our flight controller there in all of its glory. And it's looking really nicely wired up, really nicely soldered. Everything is looking very nice and very neat. Very happy with the quality on that. So what we got here is the F4 forward mini flight controller. It's got all kinds of stuff. You can see the OSD chip right here. You can see the MPU 6000 gyro there. You can see all kinds of stuff going on. It's some great stuff. It's going to be running Betaflight. It has a 5 volt 3 amp output on it. It's a 25 by 25 millimeter board with 20 by 20 obviously mounting screw holes, so that is a good thing. And it looks like, okay, so the connection, so like with the XJB you had the pins running between. With this one you have this little bundle of wires here. This is what's connecting the flight controller to the ESCs. So let's dig down deeper and see what that looks like. That won't reach, but I might be able to do these with my hands. All right, let's get this peeled up out of the way. Now we can see our ESCs. Now, one thing that I'm noticing that's really cool is if you see, they've included, there's a little bit of soft mounting right here for the full stack. And then after the ESC, they've included double layer of soft mounting above it. So basically the idea is to hopefully, you know, isolate the flight controller. Now, it's not going to be perfect, but it's definitely going to help out because you have all the soft mounting between the frame and where everything's going on when you get up into the flight controller section. The other thing that's amazing is just look at the number of capacitors on this thing. I mean, for a 4-in-1 ESC, there's just capacitors up the wazoo on the ESC. And remember, as I mentioned at the beginning, there is a low ESR giant capacitor on the back here too. So there is tons of noise filtering here. So I'm very excited to try that out. but that makes me really happy just to see that much capacitors on the ESC. You can take a peek at that and see there's just loads and loads of them. All of our solder joints look nice and clean, and this is their forward 45 amp 4-in-1 ESC. It basically can handle 2S to 6S LiPo. At 4S, it can handle 45 amps. At 6S, it can handle 35 amps, and its peak current is 55 amps at 5S. It is a BL-Heli 32 ESC instead of the BL-Heli S that we were used to with the XJB. So that is pretty cool. That's actually a very big upgrade in my opinion. And it's a 31.7 by 36.5 millimeter sized board with, again, the 20 by 20 hole pattern. So that is pretty stinking cool. So now while we're looking at the internals of this, let's look at these motors that are on this thing. So as you can see, these are the HGLRC forward motors. They are the 1408s. These are for the 4S version, is 3600 kV. They are basically 1408 means the stator has a 14 millimeter width and it's 8 millimeters tall. In case you're curious and you want to know the real details, it does have 9 stator arms and it does have 12 poles, which means there's going to be 12 magnets around the inside of this bell. And it is capable of running 3 or 4S LiPos, which means don't think you're going to plug a 6S onto this version and fly it, because you will probably burn the motors out. You need to run the lower kV motors, the 2400 kV motors, which we were going to look at. Since we're talking about motors, let's look at these right now. For comparison, these motors look identical, except for one very key feature. It says 2400 kV right there. All right, so if you're going to run 6S, you need to make sure your motors are 2400 kV. If you're running 4S, then you can use the 3600 kV motor. So this is the only difference between 4S and 6S. They are not interchangeable. You want to make sure you have the correct motor for the correct battery you plan to fly. And if you're not sure which one you're going to do what I did. Get the Craft in one flavor and then buy the other motors so that you get both in one package, and then you can always decide which way you like it just by swapping out your motors. Now, yeah, it's a little bit of a pain to swap out motors, but you know what? Having that flexibility is a pretty cool thing. And lastly, just this frame, we talked about it earlier. We can get a little bit better view of it now that everything looks like it's exploded and taken all apart here, but you can really see the quality of this frame. I do like how it has like the press fit nuts here to hold this parts together. I do like the extra shape of how this is squished in while these sides are kicked out. And, you know, overall, it's a really well thought through frame. It does look like there was at some point, instead of using this 3D printed part on the standoffs, there may have been plans at one point to similar how the camera goes into these little slots and has vertical portions of the carbon like this to hold the camera in place. There may have been some vertical component here, because I do see a slot here and there is a slot on this side too, but there are no slots to match with it on the top plate. So I'm not sure what they were intended for at some point, but obviously something was at some point to be slotted in there. All right, now that we've got this thing completely torn apart and it looks like a raggedy old mess, let's put this back together and get it all nice and cleaned up. And again, remember, these are soft mounts, so when you're screwing these things down, you want to just snug them down enough so that it's creating pressure, but you don't want to completely crush those things, otherwise you're sort of defeating the purpose of soft mounting in the first place. And there we go. Fully assembled, ready to fly. All right, so that's your in-depth, close-up, disassembly and reassembly look at the HGLRC Arrow 3. I am super excited about this quad. I think this thing is going to be super killer. I think it's going to blow stuff out of the water. I am super excited. Now, the problem is I don't necessarily have a battery that's small enough 4S, but with an XT60 connector. So I'm either going to try to rig something up or I'm going to be purchasing new batteries. So that means that there's going to be other parts to this video. So this would be basically part 1. Part 2, which will be coming soon, is going to go over setting it up. How to hook it up into Betaflight, how to, configure everything, and how to just get this thing up in the air. Very similar to how I did with the XJB, I'd like to get you guys up in the air. So ultimately, as these videos are released, they'll be added to the HGLRC Arrow 3 playlist, and you'll be able to watch them all together. So right now, we got the unboxing, and in the future, coming soon, we're going to be doing setup, then we're going to be doing flight tests, then we're going to be doing just general flights and just seeing how it performs. Then we got to switch out these motors to go to 6S. I mean, come on, 6S, that's crazy for a little 3-inch. That's a lot of power. Like, I can't even fathom what is going to happen with this on 6S. So that is something I am looking really forward to. And that's why you need to make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon, because then you'll know when I post the next part to this video. Get it? Yeah. All right. So, as always, my name's Tronage. Fly strong.